All right, up next, the final trailer for Venom: The Last Dance was released by Sony. The trailer showcased Eddie Brock and his symbiote sidekick facing down Venom's homeworld, with comic enemy Knull at the forefront as the antagonist. Venom: The Last Dance is the final movie in the trilogy, written by Kelly Marcel, who is also taking a turn in the director's chair for this entry. Is anyone eating this up?
I might be nibbling at it, but I'm definitely not scarfing it down. I've been on record. The Venom movies are not my favorite, even within the scope of the Sony verse. I like the first Venom movie. Second Venom movie, Let There Be Carnage, remains to be the low point for me personally. And as I've seen these trailers, I sort of get encouraged. It's like, okay, it looks like a little bit of a return to form, a little bit of what made the first movie as enjoyable as it was, and it was really embracing this kind of odd couple aspect between Eddie and Venom there. So in that sense, I think it looks fun at best. I am concerned about Kelly Marcel. I wish the best for her, but it's a pretty thankless job, I think, to take on the third Venom film as your directorial debut in the Sony Spider-Man verse. But we had some reveals in this trailer, and I'm admittedly not the most knowledgeable when it comes to Venom as a character in the comics. I am aware of some of his early ongoings, especially his introduction to Spider-Man and being an adversary there. But when he took the anti-hero route, I get a little less familiar. And then as if I'm not mistaken, the symbiote species has been confirmed to be the Clintar. I think that's correct. So we've got this character, Knull, who is supposedly the king and the creator of the Clintar. And again, it's a character that I virtually know nothing about other than that. He's the creator of the symbiotes. He's the creator of the Necrosword. Cool. But I'm bracing for impact because I'm probably going to get some flack for this. But the parts of the Venom character that I least enjoy are kind of around his origins, the whole 90s, yeah, over the top, let's rage kind of character. Those were the aspects of Venom that never really landed with me, and I feel like Knull kind of fully embraces that aspect. So I'm open to it. Let's see what they give us. Hopefully it's an emotional swan song for these characters, and there is some emotional heft and impact there, but not holding my breath, but I will be there to check it out. I still think that Kraven looks like the better movie at this point in time, but we will see what we're saying come 2025.
I feel like your description of the Venom 90s, yeah, let's go. That is Venom. That is where Venom came from to me. That whole era of his introduction and everything feels like that's what he was.
Admittedly, he's not my favorite. I think writers have been able to tap into the whole dichotomy and pool that there is with Spider-Man having had the suit previously, and what does that mean for Eddie. That's the stuff that I'm more interested in. But yeah, I think he is fully steeped in what I was talking about earlier, the 90s.
Yeah, that entire post Spider-Man, what the symbiote did, Eddie Brock's is that.
Why do I think that's so funny? I'm dying over here. It's just getting me. I don't know why.
Well, good. I think it's interesting. I've been thinking about it a lot because there's a number of things like this, but I think the One Ring is sort of the one that goes to my mind first, is the thing that is powerful that will corrupt you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the symbiote. And so while it's this, but it also has the element with Spider-Man, it's also the temptation of power. And I think that's a lot of fun to play with for sure. And so I think that is a bummer that we still haven't seen. We haven't seen that really, even in the Venom character that we've seen in the Sonyverse. He is not a corrupting force. You know what I mean? Like he was for Spider-Man and other people that have worn him in the comics and movies. But the thing that we talked at length about this on the MCU cast this week, so I won't go too deep, but the biggest takeaway for me with the Knull character being there is this version of Venom has talked about how they're a hive mind, which is true of I think the ones in the comics as well, where they transfer their memories and stuff are transferred through the symbiote, whatever reproduction process and stuff.
Yeah.
And that Knull is their creator, but they've also said they're multiversal. So if that's the case, So Knull in the comics apparently exists in a space called the Void that is existing between the Big Crunch and Big Bang of the last universes. So like he's like outside of universes basically.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, like that kind of sounds like the multiverse to me. Like this, and if they're going to do that, and they've already talked about how the symbiotes are multiversal, it seems like this Knull might be a multiversal threat, or at least like, reconnect Venom to the multiverse. And if they're ending the trilogy here and they want to use Tom Hardy's Venom in any other way in the MCU or the Sonyverse, it seems like a way to do it, or a time to pull him into the multiverse, which I don't know. It could be. We could see him in Secret Wars. Is what I guess what I'm saying.
God, I hope not.
See, this is what's weird about it to me. Like, it's the last of the trilogy. We are led to believe that the character is done, and they're going to introduce like the multiversal villain who is connected to all the pieces and has all this power and can destroy universes or whatever. Like, we're going to introduce this like major villain, and I just do not think that they'll end him in this movie in any meaningful way. I mean, what you saw in this trailer is probably the end of the movie. Like, it's probably a post-credit / end of the movie, like, I sent all my guys after you. Kind of like Thanos sending Loki to Earth in Avengers, and then at the end they're like, oh, you failed. I guess I got to do it or whatever. Like, that's kind of what I'm anticipating will be happening in this movie, and that's why we haven't heard about this character at all until this trailer. But what does that mean for the Sonyverse? Because we're going to remove Venom, I guess, from the equation. We know that, like, a little bit of Venom is in the MCU bopping around or whatever. And this means what I am afraid it means, which is that we're going to have to get Tom Holland involved, which is what I don't want. I don't want him to have to fight this threat, but you just know that that's what's going to happen, is that they're going to try to bring, like, we've talked about it at length on this show. Kevin Feige set the chessboard up to have a street-level Tom Holland's Spider-Man movie. Sony's not crazy about it. This trailer tells me Sony's winning that battle. Like, they're gonna try to have him fight their multiversal villain. This is their Thanos. Like, they see this as their Avengers Endgame type thing, and we're gonna bring all the Spider people together and try to fight this multiversal threat in between the two Avengers movies, and then you can have him back for Avengers Secret Wars. And I don't like it either, but I'm just trying to prepare you for the reality of what's about to happen.
Yeah, no, that sounds terrible.
Existential dread and that.
And they're gonna bring Miles
so
Morales
funny.
in, and they're gonna ruin Miles Morales in live action. Like, it's all gonna happen.
Okay, counterpoint. If they don't use Tom Holland and they don't really strongly connect it to the MCU, they could use the multiverse. They could create a live-action Spider-Verse with another version of Peter Parker and possibly a Miles Morales and possibly a few Peter Parkers. Maybe Tom Holland drops into their universe at some point, but maybe not. And you could still do all of that without actually, like, setting it between the two. I was thinking the same thing you said, Jay, which is like, this absolutely, they show Knull in the trailer, which makes me think he's the antagonist of this movie, but it absolutely could be like a tease throughout the movie, like, oh, he's fighting all these things that have come to Earth, and then he's going to have to then, like, well, now I've got to go stop Knull from ever trying it again, and that's like the journey that the Sinister Six go fight Knull or whatever, which does sound terrible.
It's just it's a Spider-Man Mad Lib at this point. It's just like any character that's related.
And Jay Scotty mentioned that he created the Necro Sword, which was the sword used in Love and Thunder. So
Correct.
It's like, there's like little connections. It's also the sword that cut off the head of the Celestial Nowhere, that is Nowhere. So like, there's like a lot of little MCU connections to Knull that were just Easter eggs when they brought them in. But like, will this movie? It's just, yeah. The whole thing with the actor who playing the bartender at the end of No Way Home being at the bar in the other universe with Chiwetel Ejiofor, like, I am so confused by what they're going to do with this movie.
That's exactly what Sony wants.
they're not going to acknowledge the Chiwetel Ejiofor thing. Like, just you got to embrace that. Like, they're gonna be like, what's a big deal? He's just this guy now. Like, they're not going to acknowledge it.
Yeah, but the Chiwetel Ejiofor is one thing, but then they have the actor who played
the guy
lizard.
From the Lizard. Same thing. They're not going to acknowledge it.
Playing a guitar.
I think he's in this one, right?
He is, but he's playing like a guy in a van playing a guitar or something. But
well, the thing though, Amazing Spider-Man hit him with a thing. You know, he was supposed to, the serum that turned him into the Lizard was supposed to give him his arm back. So, like, if he cured him and he put him back in his universe with his arm, what if he's now decided to give up science and he's off on the road with his guitar?
He's a busker.
Music was my first passion. I was just missing an arm.
Exactly.
I'm disappointed for you already when you're walking out of this movie. Like, I can feel your disappointment in the future already when you walk out and you're like, they didn't even acknowledge it.
Yeah, no, you're right. They probably won't. But it's such a weird, it's just some weird choices being made. We've been saying it for 2 months now, but the Knull thing just adds to the whole complexity of how complicated and weird this movie's going to be.
It's so weird, too, to just bring him in at the end of a Spider-Man movie and he looks at the TV and he's like, that's my arch enemy. And then just to yank him out without ever meeting Spider-Man. Like, these are bizarre choices. Like you set up this whole thing like, oh yeah, he's here now. He's in the MCU. He's the next big thing. And then he literally just like, you know, a piece of his body falls off and then they just yank him back out. And it's like, okay, what did we accomplish just now?
But that piece of the body, that piece of the body's coming for him. It's worming its way.